what I learned to disassociate your feeling of value and self-worth from what other people said and to not take it personally.
We are such a immediate gratification generation that we want to see immediate results in everything that we do. But the reality is, okay, that the work is for today, the results are for the future. Just like prayer, the prayers for today, the results are for the future. It is for us to gain strength and appreciation for what we're doing and enjoying the journey. And when we enjoy the journey, it's a lot easier for us to be able to overcome the challenges that come along the way of the journey. So what was your process as a young 19-year-old to identify a property and actually end up buying a property? What did you do? How did you decide that was a property, and what did you get the money to put the down payment?
So when I started working when I was 8, I was literally saving my money from that age. I would invest it into I would buy video games and then I would sell them, I would trade them, I would buy comic books and baseball cards and trade up, and I would buy Pokemon cards and do that. At 16, I was buying stocks, and I would trade Walmart stock, I would buy, resell, and a lot of little things. And I saved up roughly about $35,000. I think about $35,000. At 19, I started working with the bank, and as a teller. Within 15 months, I had my own desk. I was one of the youngest people doing mortgages, opening checking accounts, credit cards, back when you can actually sell mortgages at the desk in the bank. And I just saved up all my money and just kept on investing it in different ways. Then I did my research and did what I could, and then I learned. And from 14 to 19, I was studying construction. So I was actually doing construction with people. I learned how to do a lot of different jobs. And when I was 17, I was actually building custom cabinets with my father's friend. And my father wouldn't let me in the summer go hang out and play. He would make me come to work with him for like 90 hours a week, morning to night. I was working with him, except for Sunday. I would go to church and I would cut the grass. That's the only time I got off in the summers. And then other times when I wasn't working with him in the summer, he would allow me to leave, but I had to go work for his friend for free. So one guy did tile, one guy did different projects, one guy did cabinets, and I learned a bunch of this on the construction side. Then as I was growing up, I was learning the banking side. I have a CPA mentor. I learned the tax game. So I learned every aspect to the financial game and to the construction game, and I merged everything together in the real estate business, and then the management side. So when I started, I did everything myself. And what I thought was a good deal, I bought. And like most people say, the first deal actually, when you look back, was not that great of a deal. But with real estate, you buy and wait, and eventually it becomes a good deal. So I did sell it later for a good profit. But then the second deal, I learned from it. From the first one, I got to outperform my previous. The third deal was a blessing. I literally, if you looked on paper how I could qualify for it, I couldn't. It was a commercial property, and I prayed for it, and literally God showed me how to do it, and I ended up buying that property, and it's my most profitable property, and I still own it today. So it's originally when you start looking at basically value, your dollar per square foot, cap rates, things like that. And that's how you, I think, start thinking in the beginning. Because when you come from a third world country, a lot of times we have more of like a gold standard or an oil standard. We have a different way of thinking. We don't really think debt. When you come here and you finally learn how the system really works and our dollar is really a debt-based system, you have to understand, well, really how money is made is not on cap rates and dollar per square foot and whatnot. It's really on wealth creation, wealth growth. And when you change, then I had to learn that as I grew, how to change my thinking. But in the beginning, I was looking at the basic metrics, dollar per square foot, cap rates.
I want to dive into something for a second here. There's a couple of things words that stand out that you've been saying that really kind of defines your highest values, right? And you talked about faith, you talked about gratitude, you talked about work ethic, you talked about mentorship. Mentorship through going and working for your father's friend to build cabinets, going with your father and doing labor work while he was at work, 14, 16 hours a day. So it's almost like there's a core set of values that you were developing along the way. Now, when you went on your own, and you started buying your first piece of property, your first real estate piece of property, normally our biggest critics, our biggest naysayers are the people around us, our friends, our family, our circle of influence, okay? What kind of feedback were you getting with your parents? Because this is a big dive for you. This is something, your father, for all practical matters, he had a mechanic shop and a gas station, and your mom had, been a midwife, but they were not risk takers, right? So for you to come in at 19 years old, and this is very important, how were you able to shut down the naysayers, or how were you able to turn them into becoming adversaries?
So I was working with my father. At that point in time, so in New Jersey, actually an engine fell on him, and he basically broke his back, and he had to, took a lot of rehab to get him back to health. So then we moved to Florida. When we moved to Florida, he opened a convenience store. He bought a building, opened a convenience store, and I worked with him there. And I was continuing to work with him, and I was fine with continuing to work with him, but he had limiting beliefs. He was not looking to really grow, and he was very conservative. And that for me was not a fast enough growth. So that's when I started doing things on my own because of his limiting beliefs. Again, he did the best he could in the way that things were back home or back in the day. He did the best he could. She did the best she could. But when I learned how the system works here, when I learned that there's opportunities for those who take it, I started thinking, I need to go out and do this. And he was very against it, basically saying I was gonna fail and I shouldn't do it. And it's funny, so I bought my first duplex, and then about a year later, I bought another duplex, and I bought a 7-unit like 6 months later, with a really short amount of time. And I was sitting at the table with him, and it was him and his friend who were sitting outside at my childhood home. And I was saying, I'm gonna have 23 units by the age of 23, right? I wanted a really good, cool sounding goal. And he's like, you're never gonna have 23 units by the age of 23. And at that time, I said, I have 17 units right now. He didn't know I bought more than that duplex. He didn't know that I kept on growing and pursuing. And he was kind of shocked that I was to that level. It's what I learned to disassociate your feeling of value and self-worth from what other people said, and to not take it personally. Because again, they did the best they could with what they knew. So you can't expect someone to validate your logic and your research if they don't know anything about what you're doing. So I had to get strong enough inside to know that you don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You have to do what you think is right. And when you win, they'll support you.
And I love it. I remember, early on in my business career, and I was moving on, my father he would never ask me questions, but every so often I would walk into his house, or an uncle or a man would be visiting, and my dad would be bragging about me and all of my accomplishments. Okay. Yet he would never tell me that he was proud of my accomplishments. Yes. Okay. And the reality is, it goes right back to something that you said a minute ago. He had limited beliefs. Okay. He was able to give you what he had, right? He can't give you more than what he had. Now, the lesson here, the lesson that we want our audience to learn is, how are you not applying those beliefs? How do you break that cycle? How do you move forward to make sure that what you learned from your father, you don't pass on to your children? Okay. What are you doing different? How have you learned this?
So there's always that thing, and I'm trying to fight it today because I'm a very comfortable level now, but I'm trying to take it to another level. And I'm trying not to hold myself back. And what I do is I try to put myself around the right people that think a certain way so I can learn and grow with them and from them. So iron sharpens iron as a man sharpens another man. That thought process, that it really keeps on making myself invest in myself, right? I spent a significant amount of money to go to this 10-day event in Belize with Robert Kiyosaki, Ken McElroy, Dr. Doug Duncan, chief economist from Fannie Mae, was there. Like, really around the people, George Gammon was there, around the people that are thinking different. And also, if they think a certain way, that they have real world experience. Not that they hear someone say it, but actually what they see firsthand from what they're doing.